Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings, is brought to you by RockAuto.com. All the parts your car will ever need. BrothersTrucks.com, your #1 source for 1947 to 87 Chevy and GMC truck restoration. Magic Creeper, the most versatile creeper ever. NH Oil Undercoating, the official oil-based rust prevention system. And by Wilbur's Performance Suspension, the motorcycle suspension experts.
Thanks for staying with us here on Motorhead Garage, presented by NHOU Protective Coatings. You know, in any vehicle, fuel delivery is so important. Carl, if you're maybe going around a cloverleaf on a highway, maybe you're off-roading, maybe you're racing, and you're not getting fuel to the pump. Maybe the gas is sloshing from one side or the other. You're going to have trouble. How have the OEMs solved problems like that?
Yeah, well, the OEMs have solved that problem with what's called the integrated fuel module. That's what this is. So this has an electric pump in it, just like any traditional fuel system does. But what makes this device so unique is this reservoir system that's at the bottom, because it always has fuel overflowing in it. So when fuel washes away, this still has fuel to be able to feed to the electric pump. And
the pump is surrounded by the fuel, which means there's pressure to it. It also keeps it cooler, is that right?
Keeps it much cooler, always immersed in fuel, so it's always feeding the fuel pump with good fresh fuel.
And now you figured a way to put that module into a tank like this, and it might have a hot rod or a race car.
Right. For these systems, there's really two different components. First is the mechanical method of being able to get the fuel module into the tank. So there's the weld-in ring that's on the top,
yep,
and that allows for the fuel module to press down and compress against the bottom of the tank. It uses the OEM sealing ring and the OEM cam ring. So both the fuel module, the sealing ring, and the cam ring, if you need spare parts, you can get them from RockAuto.com.
That piece of cake there. First of all, to tighten this, we'd use channel locks.
You could use a simple pair of channel locks, or you can use the specialized fuel locking ring tool that's available also from RockAuto.
And for demonstration purposes, we just have it hand tight there. But you mentioned the spring-loaded feature of this, and it presses it against the bottom of the tank. Why is that important?
Right, so there's actually suction pumps that are on the bottom of the fuel module that literally suck fuel off the bottom of the tank and bring into the reservoir. So that fuel module needs to be preloaded against the bottom of the tank for that to happen.
And if I'm using corner pickups, maybe I'm off-roading or racing and I've got high G loading on one side or the other, and I need corner pickups, can I integrate it with this system?
Sure, you can integrate as many of these corner pickups together as you want by daisy chaining them, tie them into the available suction port that's on the side of the fuel module, and we'll literally suck the tank dry from any of the corners of the tank that those corner pickups are mounted to.
Very cool. Now, let's talk about this module. How does this fuel module beat a standard pump like you have there from the Hellcat?
Okay, so this is a standard Walbro 450 liter per hour pump. It's the same pump that's used in the Hellcat, the Dodge Hellcat. Now, if you kind of imagine, let's say you've got fuel that's at this level here, and fuel washes away, now this pump runs dry. When this pump runs dry, the same thing happens as if you ran out of oil in your engine. The oil pressure is going to fall, but when the oil sloshes back to the pickup, now you get oil pressure again, but the damage has been done. Eventually the pump is going to fail. By keeping the pump surrounded with fuel, you help increase its life.
And we talked about getting the module into the tank. The second step is controlling that, controlling the fuel that goes through.
Correct, that's the second piece. First was the mechanical, yes. Now we need to do the electronic piece.
And how do we do that?
So there's kind of two different ways. So you could try to integrate what the OEMs have used, but it's very difficult to do that both electronically, and almost all aftermarket EFI systems do not have the capability of being able to drive a fuel computer. So what we have instead is a standalone controller that can drive any of the OEM fuel modules.
How do I know what kind of pressure I need and how much fuel I need to send to my engine?
So let's say you're going to put in an LS3 crate engine from GM. It's going to have a fuel pressure and fuel volume specification that's included in the instructions. There's also simple calculations that can be done to figure out how much fuel does my engine need, and then on the Vaporworx website there's a resources section that walks you through how to be able to make the right fuel module selection.
Now, while we're talking about help like that, the resources section, what if I'm not sure what equipment I need or what settings I need to use with stuff I buy from Vaporworx?
Well, if you ever need help, you can always call. And when you call, there's only one person who's going to pick up the phone. And I'll be happy to walk you through what your engine requirements would be, along with the necessary components to be able to make it all integrate well together.
And speaking of integration, wiring can be such a tricky deal with the OEMs. I know their systems are much more complicated than a lot of folks can comprehend. You've made that simple as well with the wiring and the harnesses that you have.
Right. Much of the wiring is already pre-done at Vaporworx. So, for example, this wiring harness already has the plug completely crimped to be able to go onto the General Motors fuel module. It also has the fuel pressure sensor already set up, so it just plugs in and goes. So you just route these parts back to the controller, crimp the terminals on, line up the colors. You don't even have to read the instructions if you don't need to. You just line up the colors and everything will work.
Well, a lot of heavy hitters are using products from Vaporworx, and you can too. Check them out at vaporworx.com. We'll return with more Motorhead Garage presented by NHOU Protective Coatings and more products right after this.